Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Spin Rack. I'm here with my boys Petey and Cal. Today, comic book world, another loss. Keith Giffen, comic book artist and writer, passed away at 70. He's known for Rocket Raccoon, Guardians of the Galaxies. Petey, Cal, you want to chime in? What's your take on this? Another loss that we suffered recently.
Well, I'll say, he obviously started in the late '70s at Marvel, and kind of struggled at Marvel, trying to figure out deadlines and whatnot. And then he went to DC, where they knew of his lateness and his struggles as an artist, and they gave him a chance doing some Doctor Fate stuff. And then at the same time, they gave him a chance to do some backups for the Legion. And the artist doing the lead story kind of decided to do Firestorm. So they said, hey, we're going to try you out on Legion full time. You got a good rapport with Paul Levitt, who's one of the top guys at DC. And he just blew up as a talent. He basically, the book was already doing pretty well. And then the book was obviously going one of the first books that had royalties. It was doing enough to get a Baxter edition while he was on it. And from there, his star just kept rising. He did the Omega Men, did the first 6 issues of that. Under Mega Men, brought in his character Lobo, who everyone's heard of, and then from there he's went to the Justice League. He sprinkled this strange that they had him do a few issues of Superman, but most of those are like kind of gag issues with Ambush Bug, another creation of his. But from there at DC, he basically made his bones. Did a present day Legion comic. He did the Justice League, many different spin-offs from the Justice League. So he was DC's guy. He did a reboot for Green Lantern, did some stuff for Aquaman. He was just in Lobo. Once he finally did a Lobo comic, that blew up even more. So he did come, in the '90s, did some Marvel stuff, did a lot of Image stuff, and he's just a talent, all-around talent. The only thing I heard that he wanted to do that he didn't do was Captain America, but his pitch I heard, I was like, wow, this guy is pretty amazing. So, from the '80s, he was, definitely a star. Even later, the Blue Beetle that came out, they asked him, I think Dan DiDio came over to him and said, hey, Blue Beetle and the Scarlet Scarab, the Scarab from space, and they said, all right, I'll do it. And they came up what we see in the movies recently. So he's a definite talent, collaborator and plotter, writer, and definitely one of the great artists from the '80s and '90s. So, and was doing work at DC's at the New 52, all that stuff. So he's always been around, and he's recently done a lot of podcasts. I think the podcast was untitled Not Dead Yet. And we'll go through some of the posts from people who were, who had commented on him, eulogize him on Twitter. So that's what I got to say for now.
Cal?
Oh, I thought you wanted to get some links in. Primarily, my favorite Keith Giffen work is the Great Darkness Saga. He did that with Paul Levitz. That was for me. I didn't get to read it in real time, but I was still able to shield myself from the big reveal as to who the big bad was. And it was, it's a long form story, which is great in comics because that keeps you coming back month after month as opposed to the one and done. At least it did for me. The treatment of the treatment of the characters, and then the big reveal. I think it's safe to say now who the villain was. It turns out to be Darkseid, but the way that he's revealed the art, which is God created, which is from Michelangelo's God Created Man, was just like a really big. I mean, it just dropped such a bomb on me reading it. That is, for me, that's his best work. His writing stuff for me was hit or miss, but that Great Darkness Saga will always be just classic material. I I don't remember a lot of his Marvel work. I remember his Marvel work thinking it was Jack Kirby drawing it because I didn't know any better at the time. I know he did some Defenders stuff that really just seemed to ape Kirby, but I thought his best contributions were with DC. A lot of people love his Justice League reboot after Crisis. But his biggest character, which everybody's gonna know, is Lobo, and this was a character that he created as a, I don't know if pastiche is the right. Well, no, I wouldn't. Pastiche wouldn't be the right word, but it's a parody of those popular characters, like Wolverine, for instance, and takes off. Guys just love the parody because they just love that style of character anyway, and never look back in terms of the popularity of the character. That'll probably be looked upon as his uh, lasting legacy in that particular character. In person, he could be a little bit. Um, I've heard him described as cantankerous, playfully, of course, but cool guy in person overall. From what I've heard, I got the chance to meet him, albeit briefly. Like a lot of people probably did. At a con, got a signature, that type of stuff. But again, this is a if you look at the amount of work, and he did a lot of work, even with the New 52. I think at one point when Perez was off of Superman, they tapped Keith Giffen, but I can't remember exactly. That was just a wild time with all the shifts that were going on. But just a really large body of work. Fingerprints all over the place, and will generally be missed by the generally be he will genuinely be missed by the comic book community, by comic books overall, of course, by those people who love them. And we Keith Giffen, rest in peace, sir. Rest in peace.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember him from one of his most dramatic covers was the Omega Man with Lobo on the cover. What was it called? Assault on Euphorix, I believe it was.
Omega Man,
Classic,
Omega Man 3, the bondage cover.
right. Um, that was a classic. Callisto, Prisoner of the Citadel. Yeah. I mean, the introduction to the character was very, very interesting. But you also have him with, even now, the Blue Beetle with Jamie Reyes, now that the movie's just come out, shows you that, lingering influence that he's had, from his characters, seeing them more now currently, being taken in. We all know Dark Side. If they ever do a show of the Great Darkness Saga, that's going to be one hell of a thing. But he's
They'll
got to get
never
their
do
act
it.
together.
They'll never do it because they got to use Superboy.
Why? Doesn't make a difference. It's a good story. You have to do it, right? Eventually.
They'll
Yeah,
screw him.
they can still do it. I mean,
Exactly my point.
what? What do you mean?
Anything to get Superboy out of the Legion.
They didn't do what? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Hmm?
Well, we don't worry. We digress on that. But
Yeah, we
the point
digress.
is that many of his stories, we're coming. Rocket Raccoon, very popular character in Guardians. Um, you also have, like I said, the look of Darkseid. I always liked the way he drew Darkseid. It looks more rockier compared to some of the others. I just like the way they look at the color, look at the eyes. Fantastic. And then of course Blue Beetle with the movie. Those comics are still selling off the shelves. Surprisingly, I didn't think that it would be such a big hit. But
Blue Beetle, really? Okay.
you thought Big Blue Beetle, the new incarnation, will be a big hit?
No, no, I didn't realize his comics were selling. Based on any. I didn't realize his comics were selling at all. Based on movie or not.
Yeah, the Blue Beetle. Whenever you go to the comic stores, just when I see it, it's always there. They're always getting more people are buying it. The Omega Man, they just did a that Omega Man #3. They just did a vintage facsimile, and that
Mhm.
sold. So you know, very interesting, very interesting. But hey, another loss in the comic book world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's been through a lot, so and he had made through it. So we had some time to reflect with him on different talks on different podcasts. So it doesn't make it easier, but
I mean, this is why cons are important. I mean, you can go to much, but if you go to cons and you see the favorite artists that you have, take the time to try and at least so pay it forward. You enjoy their work, get their work, talk to them. You'll see a lot of times most of them are not as curmudgeonly as you would expect. A lot of them want to talk. They want to be involved. They want to see what their fan base is up to. And again, Jamie Reyes is hot, at least on comic. He's been on the big on movies. Who knows? this movie may be the start of something big, whereby he may be maybe in some new DC project coming up. Hopefully, he is. And as we can see, Rocket Raccoon is one of the most popular members of Guardians of the Galaxy. Just come up with an idea and you stick to it, right? Hey, you guys can come up with a character for all we know. And next thing we know, comic book hero, boom. It's the next big thing. And we have some young bucks talking about it. Yeah, I knew PD and Cal, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, it's at the time when Marvel had all the hits, they had two books that were pretty big for them, which was the Legion and the New Teen Titans. Those are the ones that are really getting like the big royalties, which who was it? Jim Shooter would say, "Oh, how did?" So they don't have that many books to give royalties to. We did it. We'd have to pay everybody. But it doesn't make it right just because DC's had to pay out less royalties during the period. So it was interesting to read that in an article in the T.O. Morrow was where he's talking. It was a past interview where he's talking about getting royalties. So he was doing good. He said, but he said he took on too much work, meaning doing that and the Legion. So, all right. Yep. Definitely sad news.
Okay. Spinner rack?
Out.
Out.